Hey y'all, I just want to let y'all know that in the not too distant future, our Bibles is going to be considered hate speech. And us as Christians, we're going to have to make a decision on where we lie. We're going to have to make a decision on whether or not we're going to comply and keep quiet, or are we actually going to preach? Are we actually going to talk about God's word? Did you know, I was listening to CBN the other day, and there was a preacher got a 5-year restraining order. I didn't know you could get a restraining order on speech, but yeah, the preacher got a 5-year restraining order saying that they cannot post on social media or speak about any LBGTQ whatever um, topics, right? As related to the Bible, the true Bible. He got a restraining order. If he speaks about it in the next 5 years, he can go to jail. Did you know in England, I think it was England, there was a woman who was outside of an abortion clinic. She wasn't even on the property, and she was praying silently. She was praying in her head. She was praying, and she got arrested. She wasn't making a scene. She was standing there, and she was praying silently, and she got arrested for praying. Did you know that there was, or there is, a preacher who was protesting outside of a Planned Parenthood, and that preacher is now considered to be a terrorist? The preacher is marked as a terrorist for trying to save children's lives, for babies' lives. He's a terrorist. That's a scary dude right there, let me tell you. So one of these trans peoples, they shot up a Christian school. They killed two children. They killed two babies. They killed three babies, and then they killed three adults at this Christian school. And it was a time of mourning. Everybody was scared, and everybody was upset because Biden said that we need to protect the trans community. I tell you what, man, I can't believe it. Children's babies were killed, and we gotta protect the trans community. Man, I tell you what, man, it's some crazy times. How close are we to the end times? Did you know, us Christians know, that the Jews do not consider Jesus Christ to be their Messiah, right? Um, for all intents and purposes, the Jews are the ones who they could have chose to release Jesus Christ, or they could have chose to release the thief and the murderer, and they chose the thief and the murderer instead of Jesus Christ. So the Jews ultimately killed Jesus. So they do not believe that Jesus is their Messiah. But did you know, and I crap you not, that some of the head rabbis over there in Israel are saying currently, right now, that they are speaking to their Messiah. He just hasn't made himself known yet. That's pretty wild. Just look it up. I might post it on the thing. So they're talking to their Messiah. Who is that? Who is their Messiah? Their Messiah is the Antichrist. Did you know, and I read this somewhere, I can't remember where, but in order for the Jews to build the next temple, they have to sacrifice a pure red heifer, and they have to basically cleanse themselves with the ashes of the red heifer. Did you know that there was a farmer in Texas who made it his life to try to breed the perfect red heifer? And he did, and it was, goodness gracious, that was probably he probably sent them over to Israel like a year and a half ago, and that, well, not probably like 2 years ago. So, and then they need the heifers. I think the article said that the heifers need to be 3 years old before they can sacrifice it. So these Jews are currently monitoring the heifer just to make sure that there's not a single white hair where they've ever been blemished in any single way. All right, they're currently and they got like a year left, so we're pretty close to what I believe is the end times. And but you know what's crazy? We're gonna have to defend our faith. There are many Christians out there, and many of them are my friends, and I love them to death. And they don't believe that we're going to be here for those rough times. And my fear is that with everybody going over saying that we're not going to be part of the tribulation, is that we are, and so many of us are going to be deceived because we're like, whoa, wait a second, we're not supposed to be persecuted. The reality is Christians are being persecuted all over this world. I live in the great state of West Virginia, and we're not being persecuted yet, but it is coming. It is coming down the pike. I mean, it's just a matter of time, especially with so many of us, being put in jail and being marked as terrorists and stuff. It's only a matter of time before we're extremists. We're an extremist group here in the United States. But here, let me go over here, and I'm telling you that we're going to be going through some rough times, and I'm not saying it. I'm saying it because the Bible says it. Let's go look at Matthew 24. If you look at Matthew 24, right, it tells you plain as day. Okay, it tells you in Matthew 24, starting at verse 4, right, and it goes over, it gives you the timeline of what is going to happen. And if you look at it, it mimics almost perfectly to the seals. But wait a second, we're not supposed to be here for the seals, right? Because that's the tribulation, right? Well, let's read a little bit, okay? So look, Matthew 24 says, "Don't let anyone miss." I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to paraphrase, okay? So if you look at it, right, don't let anyone mislead you. For many will come in my name and claim that they're Messiah. I'm going over. The white horse, the first seal, this is the way I view it, and keep in mind, look, I'm human, I could be wrong, but it says that he's going to win great victories, okay? I think a lot of that is that he is going to turn a lot of people away from Christ. There's a lot of people who say that the opposite of what I'm saying, but this is my interpretation of it, right? But it goes on. It says, you'll hear of wars and rumors of wars. Well, what does the red horse do in Seal 2? The Seal 2 comes over. He comes with a sword, and he creates war, right? The next one, it goes, I'll create nation will go against nation, right? And there's with that, I'm saying that is the third seal. That's the black horse. It says, well, where basically people will fight against each other. The prices of everything will skyrocket, right? And then he comes down. He says there will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world, right? The pale horse. That's what is it? That's the fourth seal, right? And then it says, then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You'll be hated all over the world, right? That's the fifth seal, where he talks about martyrdom. Right? So a lot of people say that, oh, we're not supposed to be part of God's wrath. The seals aren't God's wrath, because the fifth seal talks about martyrdom. And God's not here to kill us. Jesus Christ isn't here to kill his people. He's not here to kill his church. He wants to save our church, right? So, but then it goes over, and then it talks about the then this is still Matthew 24. Just continue on. It talks about the abomination, desecration. It talks about where Daniel talks about the Antichrist coming on scene, and let's just flip to it. In Daniel 11, right, goes over, talks about the Antichrist and his army taking over a temple, right? And he puts a stop to the sacrifices. All right, and he sets up a sacrilegious object that causes desecration. Right, he will come over and he will say that he is God. He is God. Okay, he even talks about he, the king will do as he pleases, exalting himself and claiming to be greater than every god, even blaspheming the God of gods. Okay, and he's gonna succeed in doing this, right? But let's continue. So that's what Matthew 24 talks about. Okay, when it talks about the prophecy that Daniel spoke of, right? But then it comes down, and then it talks about immediately after those days, right? The sun will be darkened. The moon will give no light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in heavens will be shaken. Well, if you go to Revelation 6, the sixth seal, it says there will be a great earthquake. The sun will become as dark as black cloth, and the moon will become as red as blood. The stars will fall from the sky like green figs falling from a tree shaken by a strong wind. Okay? Wow. That is almost exactly what Matthew 24 is saying. All right? But let's go back to Matthew 24. All right? And then it says, And then it says, after that, okay, after the sun is darkened and all that, it comes over, it says, and he will send out his angels with a mighty blast of a trumpet. Okay, what's the, after the seventh seal, the trumpets, right? And they will gather his chosen ones from all over the world, from the farthest ends of the earth and heavens. Okay, well look, if we're reading Revelation, we're going to go back to Revelation. We're going to look at chapter 6. Okay, chapter 6. At the end of it, that's the sixth seal. Okay, now we're going to come down to chapter 7. That's when he comes over. He's about to open up the seventh seal, but then it says, wait. Okay, don't harm the land or sea until he's placed the seal of God on the forehead of the servants. Okay, so that's when he does the 144,000 Jews, right? But then John goes over. Okay, John sees a new, earlier in Revelation, it talks about in the martyred ones, right? And the fifth seal, it talks about the people being martyred, okay? And they shouted to the Lord, 7, Lord, holy and true. How long before you judge your people? These are all the people who were martyred, okay? But then, after the sixth seal is open, and one of the angels or one of the living beings, I think it says, wait, okay, let's mark those 144,000. Then John sees a new vast crowd, okay? And he says, after this, I saw a vast crowd, too great to count, from every nation, tribe, and people and language, from everywhere. Okay, and it comes over, and then one of the 24 elders asked him, and he says, "Who are these who are clothed in white?" And he goes, "Where did they come from?" And it says, "And I say to him, Sir, you are the one who knows." Then he said to me, "These ones are the ones who came out of the great tribulation. They have washed their robes of the blood of the Lamb, and made them white." Excuse me. I should have brought my drink out here. Okay, so it talks about these after the sixth seal, right? And before the seventh seal, which is the beginning of the trumpet, a vast crowd emerges up in heaven. Look, in Matthew 24, after the sun was darkened and the moon will give no light, it comes over and says, and this is in Matthew, it says, "And then I'll send out my angels with a mighty blast of a trumpet, and they will gather the chosen ones from all over the world." Whoa. So that's telling me that we're going to be here for when the Antichrist makes his place, stops the sacrifices in the temple. That's when he comes over. He's going to say that he himself is God. Okay? So, and that happens kind of like in the middle, but let's go back to Daniel. Okay? And so, So after, this is going to Daniel 11 into Daniel 12, okay? And it says that there's going to be great persecution, right? Um, it says that many wise leaders will give instruction to many, but these teachers will die by fire and sword, or they'll be jailed and robbed. Okay, this is when the Antichrist is inside the church or inside the temple. Okay, and he declares himself God. Okay, and then it comes to the end in Daniel 12. It says there will be time of anguish greater than any since the nations first came into existence. And it says, but at that time, every one of the people whose name is written in the book will be rescued. And then Daniel comes over and goes, well, how long until these shocking events are over? It says it'll go on for a time, times, and half a times. So 3.5 years. Time singular, times plural, and a half of a year. So 3.5 years. I'm getting my fingers mixed up. Okay? But it says, but then he comes over, he says, I still don't understand. And he comes over and goes, from the time the daily sacrifices stopped and the sacrilegious object that causes desecration is set up to be worshipped, there will be 1,290 days. And blessed are, and so 1,290 days. Where do we see that again? We see that again in Revelation 12. In Revelation 12, right? Now this is John, he's seeing this up in the heaven. He's seeing this up in the heavens, okay? Where he's seeing that there is a mother, right? Which represents Israel, which represents basically any body that has a relationship with Jesus Christ, okay? So basically it says Israel is given birth to a baby, and there's a dragon ready to consume the baby. So what does that mean? That means that Israel is given birth to Jesus Christ. And it says, reading out, I know this is getting long. It says, so she gave birth to a son who was to rule all nations with an iron rod. And her child was snatched away from the dragon, because the dragon's ready to consume the baby, and was called up to God and to his throne. Right? So God is taken up. Right? Jesus Christ is taken up to heaven, right? So the Bible, or so the dragon, Satan, is not able to consume him, right? And then it says, and the woman, Israel, anybody that has a relationship with Jesus Christ, fled into the wilderness, where God had prepared a place to care for her for how long? It says 1,260 days, right? So now, okay. So then the martyred Christians come down. They start singing about God and how great they are, how happy they are that the devil's been thrown down, because the devil gets thrown down to earth. But then it says, but terror will come on the earth and the sea. The devil has come down to you in great anger, knowing that he has little time. Okay? So look, there's that 1.5 year period again. But look at this. In the last part of Revelation, or not Revelation, Daniel 12, right? After it says that there will be 1,290 days, that's 1.5 years. Look at this. And blessed are those who wait remain until the end of the 1,335 days. I was not sure what exactly that meant. So after doing some research, many scholars believe that is basically the time before the 3.5 years. So, according to my Bible, okay, that the seals are not God's wrath. We are going to be here for the seals. Not only are we going to be here for the seals, we're going to be here for a portion of the Antichrist's reign, okay? Right up to the point to where he declares himself God. Once he declares himself God, somewhere around that time, according to the Bible, according to Daniel, according to Revelation, according to Matthew 24, that is when we're going to be called up. But we are going to suffer a lot. in that before that time. We're going to be persecuted. Get out of the cities. Run away from the cities. Come out to somewhere like that's a God-fearing state like West Virginia. All right, because it's and not the cities of West Virginia. Move out to the mountains of West Virginia, because it's I'm telling you, it's gonna be rough for me, and it's gonna be real rough for the people in the cities. So, look, that bucks the system. There's a ton of people out there saying that we're not gonna go through these troubles and stuff like this. And the reality is yes, we are. We need to prepare ourselves now to fight for this, because if we're not prepared right now, if we're not preparing to fight for it right now, when they come knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, are you a Christian? Did you post that on Facebook? Did you make that YouTube video?" You got to be prepared to justify your actions, and you need to be prepared for the consequences of those actions. All right? Love y'all. This was a long one. I think this is the longest one I've ever done. But see y'all later.